It is. All right, I'm hitting the blue button.
Okay.
We are live. Welcome to the first iteration of our very first YouTube live together. Jana Osofsky is joined with me today. If you are new to us, we had a show on Clubhouse, and I like Jana have been feeling that platform is kind of not a good fit for us anymore. So we wanted to rehash what we were doing, what was already working, and really just bring it to you in a much deeper and much different way. So YouTube Live it is. Jana, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here and so excited for the continuation of our conversations for like 3 years almost. We were so consistent coming to Clubhouse weekly, sometimes, more than once a week, and bringing people insights and tips about content strategy and Pinterest. And I'm so glad that even though that platform is no longer really what it once was for us and really for everybody, that we're continuing the conversation here. It's awesome.
I am also equally excited. I'm just going to lock our Zoom meeting so no one accidentally pops into our room. I use the same room URL, so just in case.
Yeah. It's a good idea.
So today we're talking about rookie mistakes that Pinterest marketers make when they are venturing into this platform or this marketing for the first time or again. Because sometimes it's again and it's been a few years and it feels like they're starting over. So with that conversation in mind, we have 4 mistakes that we're going to talk about today. Jana has 2 and I have 2. So if you're familiar with us, you know that we like to ping pong this conversation back and forth. So what is the first mistake that you would say that rookies make?
Yeah. Okay. So as much as it is maybe sounds a little, cliche or whatnot, I think that it has to be mentioned, and it has to probably be mentioned first. And the first thing that I think people do when they jump on Pinterest and they don't really understand the platform and they just dive in without a plan and without guidance is that they don't do any keyword research. Sometimes it's even they don't realize what they're doing. They don't realize that it's a search engine, not social media, but that's a different conversation. Specifically, though, I think people just skip over the keyword research or they just kind of gloss over it. Mostly just skip it, really, right? And I know that because almost all the time when people come to me and say like, oh, Pinterest doesn't really work for me, I've tried it. And I say like, oh, what are some of the keywords that you have found that you're trying to like rank for on Pinterest that you're using? And they're like, oh, keywords, right? And so we know in that case that people probably either didn't do their keyword research or they're sort of just guessing what keywords might be the right ones to use. And then what happens is they're either using keywords like kind of haphazardly that aren't the ones that people are actually searching for. Or sometimes it means that they're using keywords. They're like conscious of the fact that they should be using keywords, but the ones that they've just kind of picked out of thin air, just from, what they think is logical for their topics are way too broad. Like they're trying to be found on Pinterest with people who are like searching for things like, oh, healthy eating. If people search healthy eating, I want them to find me because I'm a health coach. Or like I do workouts. So if people search for like workouts, I want them to find me. And it's like, that would be great. But, especially if you're new to Pinterest, it's going to be really hard for your content to rank, meaning for those general keywords, right? And people who have been on the platform for a lot longer, people who are bigger accounts because they're just bigger businesses, like they could be like big brands like Lululemon, you know what I mean? Like you're competing with Lululemon if you're trying to, rank for like workouts. Like we don't want to be doing that. So by doing keyword research, and the way that I teach it is developing a master keyword plan that you use for your account and for your pins. All of a sudden, like things just get so much more strategic, things just work better. So I think the number one mistake that I see rookies making really is definitely just like skipping keyword research and not having a keyword plan. So that's what I think. I'm sure you see that all the time too.
I do. So oftentimes people think, oh, well, my keyword is, like you said, healthy eating, when in reality it's, healthy eating for breakfast or, what is healthy eating at 40?
Yeah.
different variations of the word healthy eating. I was actually just doing a pin plan last night for one of my membership members for one of our launch bonuses. And she sent me a list of 30 URLs. She really did the majority of the pin planning for me.
Mhm.
And she is so good at her blog titles and blog SEO that I was able to immediately figure out what keywords that she's using. Now it's just getting that frame of mind swapped to Pinterest, using those keywords on Pinterest. So every
Right.
single keyword in her blog title, I also found on Pinterest and found 3 more variations and made notes on those. So I think a lot of times if you are feeling that imposter syndrome, I guess, around what keywords you should use on Pinterest, one of my hot tips is always to lean on your Google SEO. What are you using there?
Yep.
Can we use that on Pinterest too? Would you say that would be a good starting point?
Yeah. I mean, what you just described, hopefully people who are listening picked up on that, because you just basically kind of gave them a really good little strategy for just doing keyword research in a really light way, which is starting with that keyword that you're using on Google that might be a more broad topic, or maybe not. Maybe it's not a broad topic. Maybe it is what we call a long tail keyword, and plugging it into Pinterest and seeing like what's coming up and getting even more detailed and long tail. You said you made a note of like 4 others or 3 others that would work as a long tail keyword. And we should probably define long tail keyword for anyone who's listening, who's newer to Pinterest as well, and to search marketing in general. But yeah, no, I think that's a great strategy. And it would work really well too for someone who, like, the way I teach it is you develop a keyword plan. But if you do have like a broader set of topics that you teach about or that you blog about or something, like general lifestyle bloggers, for example, what you just described could be a great alternative to that too. So a long tail keyword for people who are listening, who are like, wait, what's that? I mentioned healthy eating. Technically, I guess, because it's 2 words, you might consider that long tail, but it's so broad that I would not. So instead of healthy eating, Heather started to hint at it, right? It would be like healthy eating over 40, healthy eating when you're traveling, right? So it's more specific. It's taking that general concept and seeing, okay, what else on Pinterest are people searching for after they type in the words healthy eating? What's the context? Like, why are they looking for this? And we need to get more specific so that if our piece of content is about healthy eating while you're traveling, that you could actually get discovered by people who are going into Pinterest and typing in healthy eating or how to eat healthy while I'm traveling, right? You have such a better chance of ranking and getting discovered, not only by anyone, but by the right people who are searching for exactly that thing that you're solving in that piece of content. And probably the thing that you solve in your business for them as a content creator or a coach as well. So yeah.
Something to add to that, and then we have a couple questions around keywords in the chat, is I often like to correlate my main keyword with, I tell my students in my master or in my membership, for what or for who.
That's
Who's
so
it
good.
for, or what's it for?
Yep.
Katie's actually, Mimi asks first, I'm curious how often we should be active on Pinterest and what does that mean? Should we be uploading original pins every day or once a week?
Hi,
Should
Mimi.
we be repinning daily? Mimi is on it. Listen here. Those are great questions. Would you like to tackle them?
Oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah. I mean, the first answer is there's no magic answer. Like you could do either one of those things or something different that's in between and have success. And you could also do either one of those things or something in between and not have success because maybe you haven't done the keyword research. So there's all these different factors that come together to make a successful strategy. And you don't really, like, a lot of people get really, I'd say, like, hung up on how often they should be pinning, when in reality, what we really want you to do is just start and be consistent and add more content to the platform. So Heather sometimes talks about this idea of like parking your pins on Pinterest. So think of it like that. It's like a parking lot, right? That's Heather's concept, where if you just add 1 pin per week, right, over the course of a year, that becomes 52 pins. And now when people search for your things, they could find you. But if you only add, let's say you're going to add 10 pins a week, but you only do that for 2 weeks and then you get tired of it, then you only have 20 pins and people might not as easily be able to find you, right? So you have to, again, think back to the idea that it's a search engine, not social media. and not worry so much about how often or how frequently, but instead really think about getting your quality content on the platform in a strategic way so that people can find you when they search for your things, right?
Yep.
So, but the straight answer is either one of those things could work. It's okay. And we really just want you to pick a cadence that's going to work for you, and then just be pretty consistent with that cadence. Once a week for a year, great. Twice a week for a year, awesome. Heather, I know, has clients that she pins a lot more than that, because that's what an agency can do for you, right? So it really, it's all over the map. You can do any of those things and it could work.
And that's what I teach in my Pinterest system. To creating a workflow is really just the consistency and showing up and really building that skill and that neural pathway of, we need to find keywords, we need to write titles, we need to make pins. Like, these are all skills we're going to build over time. And that's going to build then your library of content in your parking lot on Pinterest.
Yes.
Katie has a really good follow-up to the keyword question, which is more around Google and less around Pinterest. But it says, is there a keyword volume that you should aim for, or is it too high to compete? Really, what my answer would be to this, Katie, is the shorter the keyword, the higher the competition. The longer the keyword, you get to the end of the line, is what I like to say in the bubbles. If you're in the US, Canada, UK, more Northern Hemisphere accounts have the bubbles. That's really what you want to aim for, is getting to the end of the line and having long tail keywords. Jana, thoughts before we move to mistake number 2?
Yeah, I'm distracted by the fact that my camera's bouncing up and down because speaking of rookie mistakes. I'm new to the platform, guys. New to YouTube.
We're both new to YouTube Live, so this is okay. Yeah. I do want to answer
okay.
Really quickly. Terry says, think of your target audience. Think about makes your content appealing. What problems does your content solve, and what hook can you put in there? Oh, Terry's giving us tips.
Love it, Terry.
Thank you, Terry. I love that, actually. I think that's a really good point. So why don't we move on to mistake number 2? And if you guys have more thoughts or questions, throw them in the chat. So
sounds good.
Mistake number 2. This is mine. And it relates. I think all of this really relates together. So mistake number 2 is something I actually posted on Threads the other day, and I'm going to read it to you guys because I think it would just be easier to do that. So the thread was, I get asked all the time, I'm not seeing outbound clicks on my pins, or my pins aren't getting views. It's whatever the issue is, fill in the blank. My first question to those people are always, what is your call to action, and is it timely to your audience? So the mistake really boils down to, how are you making the content consumable, but also actionable to the people on Pinterest? Because you can make pretty pins all day long, but if they don't encourage people to click, or they don't actually give people value, or they don't connect with the audience, then they're just going to scroll right on by.
Yeah. And I think, was that the same thread that you wrote something like, when I ask people, like, okay, so I think it might've been the same thread or a different one. It was so good. You said, like, people ask you, like, Heather, why are people not clicking on my pins? And you typically ask them a question back, which is that, and it's not glib, it's like a real genuine question. Okay, like, let's work on this, like, why this isn't happening. Let's start here. Why would they click on your pins? Like, put yourself in the audience's shoes.
Why should your audience care? What's in it for them?
Yeah. And if they, like, when people start answering that question to you, because you're coaching them at that point, what happens? I guess that's it's
usually what happens is they realize that the text overlay that they've used is really broad and more of a statement instead of a connection to the audience.
Yes.
There's no connection between the text overlay and what actually the outcome should be. So you teach all the time, we want to drive people to where we make our best conversions. But if you're not using verbiage on the text overlay that actually gets people to that, they're never going to convert. So I think the mistake really is thinking in your mind that your audience is you and you are your audience, and talking from your current point of view and not backing it up. So if it's healthy eating, then what about healthy eating do they need to know? Like, what is that pain point or that cause for concern? And speaking more to that, but also like selling the solution. Too many people don't sell the solution in their text overlay either, so that the audience doesn't care.
Yeah.
And if they're so blind to their pain points and that's all you ever market to, and you're missing a whole entire boat of people that are in solution territory.
Yeah, for sure.
Does that make sense?
It totally does. Yeah, it totally does.
Talking myself in circles.
No, I think it's about messaging. You're talking about the second mistake is really, and it can show up in different ways. I mean, sometimes it could show up that you're just, you need a text overlay. So you just kind of pop something up there, but you're not really taking that minute to shift into your audience's shoes and think, what's in it for me? Meaning them, like, what is it? What's in it for me? WIIFM or whatever. Or it could be that you haven't gotten to know your audience well enough yet. Right.
Yep.
And so those are two different ways that can kind of feed into that mistake, which is that your text overlay just really isn't connecting with people. So why would it stop the scroll? Why would they click? And again, it's almost like it's not a rhetorical question. Like, let's really answer it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, why would they click? Like, let's talk about that. And if you need to be able to tell me why they would click, right? To understand how to get them to click. Yeah.
I've got a good example, and I actually use this example in my membership quite often. It's the example of black leather pants. If you just make a pin that says black leather pants, who cares? There's 27,000 other pins on my screen about black leather pants in that moment. Maybe I'm shopping for them, but maybe my problem is I don't know how to style my black leather pants. So this is the example of like how to style black leather pants.
Can I just say for a second, I just want to stop for a second and say you would rock black leather pants.
Okay, I'm going to buy some and I'm going to put them on. My mother used to have a pair of size 2 black leather pants.
Oh my God, where are they?
I told her the other day, I was like, where are all your clothes? I need them.
Okay, anyway, back to the.
No, so the text overlay in that situation really should be like how to style black leather pants or how to care for or how to wash.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Instead of just, here are some black leather pants.
Yeah. Or like 3 black leather pants outfits you can wear 3 seasons out of the year or something like that. The problem is people don't know how to wear them outside of winter or
how to wear black leather pants as a C-suite executive.
Whoa. That's for
your client.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah. I'm not sure she would. She would be able, she might endorse black leather pants if they're in the right outfit. Yeah.
They're in the right outfit.
Yeah.
For the right occasion, maybe casual Friday.
Right. This is a client that I have that's a personal stylist for C-suite executives. And
she kills it on Pinterest.
She does really well with Pinterest marketing. Yeah. It works very well for her.
Lots of love in the chat. If you are joining us and you're new to us, we are Pinterest marketing experts. Jana and I have been accumulatively doing Pinterest marketing for like 15 years. If you put both of our experiences together, and we are talking about mistakes that rookies make on Pinterest today. If you have questions around getting started on Pinterest or maybe mistakes you think you've made, I would love to hear from you. What are those? Throw them in the chat. So I'm going to ask Jana what the third mistake is. What's your next mistake, my dear?
Yeah, totally. And I'm looking to see if I can see the chat. I'm going to have to make sure I get to figure out how to do that at some point. I think we did that in our dry run, but I didn't quite connect it to doing it live. Okay. So another mistake, and this one's kind of like more granular, but it just like comes to mind, is I see people who are just getting started with Pinterest, and often it's people who are really established on other platforms, and they're realizing that, Instagram, TikTok, whatever their platforms are, they need to diversify, right? And so they think, okay, I've been hearing a lot of amazing things about Pinterest. I hear that, other coaches, I work with a lot of coaches, so that's where my brain goes, are using Pinterest to get leads. So I'm going to expand over there. And they often, if they, again, don't have like a guide or hire someone to help them with a strategy, they end up just sort of using it like social media. And one thing that happens all the time is I see them posting things that are totally time sensitive.
Yeah.
So like I'll recognize a coach that I know who's starting on Pinterest, and they like put up a pin to like promote their like 5-day challenge that's coming up next week, you know? And so if you're brand new to Pinterest, you might be thinking, well, what's wrong with that, right? But the problem with that is that Pinterest is a search engine and it's an evergreen platform. And we love Pinterest for that, because you can put something on Pinterest, park it there, like Heather says, and it can get found by people for months and years when they're searching for that thing that your pin is about, that your offer is about. So we love that about it. But the other side of the coin with that is that if you pin something and it's not evergreen, it's not going to stand the test of time. It's like a big womp womp. So not only does it sort of make it obvious that like you don't really have like a more of a like a dialed in Pinterest strategy. Like I look at someone like that and I'm like, ooh, they need to like, someone needs to like let them know how Pinterest works, you know. But it also, so it's kind of like a dead giveaway, but it also actually can harm your account, because what happens is when people go to click on that a month from now, or a year from now, or 2 or 3 years from now, if that pin has picked up steam, which often happens, we end up with these legacy pins that just keep getting served and served and served, meaning people keep seeing it over and over. And again, we love that. But if that happens and it's not a pin that's relevant anymore, it's frustrating for people. And so that actually can end up impacting your account negatively, not only from a perception perspective, but literally in the algorithm. If people are clicking on something and it's going to a 404, or they're immediately bouncing because they land there and they realize, oh, this happened already like a year and a half ago, Pinterest can see that bounce rate, and it's not good for your Pinterest account. So it actually really, on many, fronts, is not a good strategy. There are some workarounds for it. You could have a landing page. Let's say maybe that's a 5-day challenge that you run 3 times a year. And so when it's not coming up, maybe you have a waitlist link on that page, right? Like there are some ways you could do it, but that's not typically what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who are brand new to Pinterest.
Yeah.
And like their first pin is like, oh, I'm running a live webinar, on this date. And it's like, yeah. So that's a big mistake that I see, that shows people don't really have the long-term strategy or the long-term thinking or mindset that they're going to need to be, successful on Pinterest. And it also can actually like ding your account if you do stuff like that. So yeah, maybe people who are listening might be saved from doing that by accident. Like you want to make sure whatever you're pinning is going to be relevant a month from now, 2 months from now, a year from now, 2-3 years from now. I have pins, my clients' pins. I know you do too, Heather, that people are still pinning, still clicking on, and I pinned them 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So we really need to make sure we're pinning things that are going to stand the test of time.
Yeah. So Pinterest really is an evergreen platform. It's not that you can't use those, hyper relevant things right now. That may be something, if you do want to use something hyper relevant to get people into your workshop that's happening in November, then maybe you want to consider running ads to that instead of running organic to it only, because it is something that's going to take time to get indexed. If you're not aware of how the algorithm works, they serve it to a very small subset of your followers and your audience interested in your content first, and people interested in the content, so in the topic. And then depending on how that goes, they will continue to serve it widely, or they'll pull back and only serve it when it gets searched, or when people come across it in their home feeds, related feeds, on other people's boards, things like that. So while we do have 2 sides of the algorithm, an engagement algorithm and an indexed search engine algorithm, because Pinterest is a search engine, if we didn't say that already in this live, you're going to hear that a lot from us. But really thinking about how you can get people into that quicker would probably be ads.
Yeah.
And if you're not ready to invest money in advertising and testing, the time to think about your advertising strategy is not 1 month or even 2 months before the event happens. It's more like 4 months at a minimum. However, so think about how you could turn those things evergreen. If you do, I have a live workshop that I run pretty regularly. I've ran it twice this year already. I turned it evergreen, so the link forwards. So in the live workshop that was promoted, that may be organic now then goes into a evergreen version.
So you're talking about running ads in order to get people into a time-sensitive event, but then also remembering that ads on Pinterest are not like ads on other platforms, in the sense that when you turn the ads off, and you're no longer paying for them, those pins can still get found in the organic algorithm. So you have to make, or the organic feeds. So you have to make sure that, again, they're going to land somewhere that makes sense when they click on that they don't 404 or go somewhere where there's nothing that they can do because it already happened last year or whatever. That's really smart. I love that strategy.
So when you are thinking about promoting on Pinterest and making things more evergreen, another thing related to the mistake Jana's talking about is thinking about how it fits into Pinterest trends. A topic around Thanksgiving dinner is going to start to really rise in search in the summer, even though you don't think that people are looking for that in the summer. So if you are thinking, okay, my content is evergreen, in a mistake really similar to what Jana's talking about, if your content is evergreen and you are posting it at the time of the event, you're also probably not going to benefit from Pinterest traffic for probably a year, 10 months minimum. So you really need to think about how you can back things up several months on Pinterest, because pinners are planners.
Yeah. So a little bit of a tangent, but for people who are new to Pinterest, because this really is kind of a 101 topic, we're helping newbies avoid mistakes that, rookies often make. We're helping rookies. Why is it that Thanksgiving recipes, for example, start trending in the summer?
Because people aren't thinking about their Thanksgiving planning the day before Thanksgiving. Right. They have to plan.
At least pinners aren't, because pinners love to plan ahead.
Pinners are not. They want to try new recipes, things that they maybe had last year, they want to do better. Maybe they're looking for tablescapes and then they're coming across recipes that you are also pinning. The reason why you want to do it in advance and in the summer instead of right in with, Halloween getting into Thanksgiving is because pinners are planners and they are looking for stuff in advance. They are thinking about the overall aspect of how this fits into their lives and not just, this is just a dinner that I have to make.
Right. And then that paired with what you just described a second ago, where Pinterest looks at your pin and says, okay, who's interacted with it in the first 5 days?
Yeah.
And how much did they interact with it in order to decide how much more to distribute it and whatnot means. Again, you need to start in advance so that your pin is actually being distributed at the time when people are really starting to look more for those types of things. So
Katie asked a good question related to what we're talking about. When pinning seasonal content, are you making sure to still pin evergreen content, or are you going all in with seasonal? Example would be a blogger. So Katie's
good question.
Katie's got a good question here. A client she's talking about is she has a lot of seasonal content. So to answer this question, you already have that seasonal component, but you also all have an evergreen component, because people are looking for Christmas in April. Unfortunately for you, they simply are.
And unfortunately for our civilization in general.
Yeah. So you have a couple options. You can continue on the path that I teach, which is making monthly pin plans, looking 30 to 90 days in advance for trends and beginning that content pin planning earlier. Or it can just be part of your pin plan year round. I think one of the questions that she's trying to dig into is, and let me know if this is what you're talking about, Katie, is there a way to spin more of the seasonal content to be evergreen? Because I get that question a lot.
Yeah.
But to answer the original question, when pinning seasonal content, are you still making sure to pin evergreen content? The answer is yes, if the client has evergreen content.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And I have a little bit of a different take on it. I mean, I agree entirely with everything, but because my clients over the years have all been coaches and course creators, and I work with a lot of people who just don't have content that is as seasonal as people who are in the food spaces, for example, or people who are in even the children's and parenting space can be super seasonal. So for me, my types of clients, we really just focus on evergreen content. We very rarely worry too much about seasonality, and instead we just really create a lot of evergreen content and get that on Pinterest using the keywords that people are searching at all different times of the year for that information. Now, that doesn't mean that for my health coach clients, for example, that they don't see a big spike in their visibility on Pinterest around the end of December or beginning of January, into January, when people are like turning over those new leaves. And, as arbitrary as January 1st is, it's a big time for like self-improvement and whatnot.
Yeah.
But we don't really worry too much about like the seasonality when it comes to pinning. We're just always pinning evergreen content. And then a lot of times those pins will get served more during that season because people are just looking for them more. So,
Yeah.
so just different approaches based on like who Heather and I have served over the years and who our clients are.
Because different accounts have different industries have different needs for Pinterest strategies. So Pinterest strategies for people like Katie's client, who's a blogger, and clients like mine who also have consistently been in the blogging space, versus those who are making money by filling coaching programs. There are very different needs for the Pinterest strategies. And that's why you really need to find an expert like Jana, who talks to health coaches. That's her specialty. If you guys were not aware of Jana, like, okay, so moving on to our last mistake, and this is actually something I've talked about on this channel in the past, and that is, drum roll, please.
I was thinking the same thing. I was going to say drum roll, please.
It might ruffle some feathers, or it might be like a moment, but honestly, like, looking at your analytics when you are brand new to Pinterest is going to drive you mad, and it's actually going to break the habit that we're trying to build and the neural pathways that we're trying to build in your brain to get you to be familiar and be consistent on Pinterest. Stop looking at your analytics when you're in the first 90 to 180 days on this platform. Just don't look at them.
100% agree.
Nothing for you to see there.
Yeah, exactly. Keep walking.
Quite literally, honestly, quite literally, in the first 90 days at least, there will be nothing for you to see there, because Pinterest takes time. Because it is primarily a search engine. And the first iteration of the search engine came about in 2011, when Pinterest realized, when the founders realized that people were searching for things instead of, like, they put a search bar there and they had interest there, but they didn't think anything of it. When they realized that, then they're like, oh, okay, let's go all in on this search engine thing.
I'm so glad they did.
Like, it's really been that way since the beginning, because Pinterest came out in 2010. And then in 2011, the first iteration was really introduced. So within that first year of existence came the search engine. So when you're thinking about it from Pinterest's perspective, I want you to correlate it to what you know from your Google SEO experience, which most of all of us are aware of Google SEO. As if we're business owners, if you're watching this channel, Google does not put you on page one on day one. You have to build up trust. You have to build up authority. That's why we tell you to claim your Pinterest, your domain on Pinterest. That's why we tell you to pin to your website and not to like Instagram kind of situations. We want to build trust and authority on the platform, but we also, back to the first mistake of not using keywords, we also have to use keywords, and we have to be patient with those and getting those indexed. Yeah.
And I just can't agree with you enough about the, number 4 mistake that we're covering. I feel like it was right around the same time that you and I both kind of had this epiphany in our businesses, where we were like we already knew, but we were just like, I think we got bold enough and confident enough in our like broad knowledge of Pinterest, and having seen so many accounts and managed so many accounts and, talked to so many people. We finally had this realization, and it was a few years ago at the same time together, that we would just stop. Like, we would literally just tell people, like, you know what, stop looking at your analytics in the first 6 months. And as shocking as that sounds, like, it's such a good strategy, because you end up not watching that pot boil. And when you don't watch the pot boil, in addition to everything else you just shared about how it works, it makes it so that, again, you're talking about those neural pathways. It puts you in a position where you can just do the things that you need to be committed to doing, which is basically pinning consistently, using the keywords, also making sure that you are thinking about what's in it for me. It puts you in this position where you can focus on those key things, and you don't have to be looking at numbers yet. And then after 6 months, or even a little longer, you can go back and now you have enough data that you can actually like do different things. Because like one of my favorite things to do with analytics, once you have an account that's been around for at least 6 months, is to go in and see, okay, which pins are most popular, right? What are the patterns? Is it this kind of pin design? Is it the bright and airy look or the darker look? Is it a certain keyword? Is it a certain topic? Is it a certain blog post? But you're not going to have enough data until you have at least 6 months of pins to be able to make that be meaningful at all. So that's just like an example. Like it just doesn't make sense to be trying to derive meaning from data when there isn't enough data yet. So that paired with the idea that like, let's stop watching the pot boil makes this like so good. Like just don't even look at your data.
Something else I want to call out here, and I'm sharing my screen right now. Can you see it? Okay. Let me know if in the chat you guys can see the shared screen, because I want to show you just live the pins that are going out on my personal Pinterest account. So this one right here on the left has 4 impressions. You might look at that and be like, ugh, I'm not getting anything from this platform. I'm wasting my time. But if you start to scroll back, you start to see a theme here of things that are growing over time. Look at these pins that are hyper relevant to the holiday season.
Ooh, 3.4 thousand views in the last 30 days. That's awesome. Good for you.
There was, there are other pins here that have way more and some that have way less. But what you can see here is a trend that this grows over time. Right. This isn't something that's just you put a pin up and immediately you get views and clicks. That's what people are marketing to you, but that is not actually what's happening.
And it's easy to believe that myth because that's how it works on social media. So a lot of our brains are trained to think, okay, if I post something on Instagram, if it doesn't do well in the first 48 hours, it's pretty much never going to do well. But that's not how it works on Pinterest at all, at all. That is absolutely the opposite of how it works on Pinterest. And rookies can easily not realize that. And then the other thing is that like the view that you're looking at right now kind of sets us up to think that our pins aren't doing well because we're looking at all the most recent pins first. And like, that's not what you should be looking at to determine the average, like what your account's doing as far as reach either. So
the reason I wanted to share this though, is because this is what most people look at. They don't actually go into their analytics screen and review what's happening in here.
Which we don't want you to do in the first 6 months anyway.
We don't want you to do that in the first 6 months anyways.
But just know that there's numbers in there that are better than what you're seeing on your...
What we do want you to do is look at this top pin section and use these filters. And I want to know what you think. My level of importance for these metrics is first impressions, because impressions tell us our pins are getting seen.
Right.
Then pin clicks, because that tells us people are at least somewhat interested in the pin to view it closer. Then saves, and then outbound clicks. Now, as your account grows and you start to get more traffic from this platform, I actually look less at pin clicks and more at saves and outbound clicks. What are your thoughts on the order of operations for analytics?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I have an order of operations in my head, to be honest, because I just feel like they all kind of like interplay together. I will tell you, in all honesty, like I'll be super real and say most of my clients are only looking at outbound clicks. Well, hey.
An outfit change. I bet you didn't know that was
coming. Wardrobe change. So in my mind, I think I do look at that when I'm like reporting, although I do very light reporting these days because I work with so few clients and I'm really just doing content creation. But yeah, I mean, they all work together. They all, they work in conjunction. I don't know. I'm not sure how to answer that, but I agree. What you're saying, I can understand why that's the case. And I would agree with what you're saying for sure.
I think the reason why I brought it up was because when people are so new to this platform, they don't really know what metrics to rely on other than outbound clicks. When there's so much more going on this platform, it's not just a platform for free traffic like everyone preaches that it is. It can also be a platform for community building and brand awareness. So when you're so new to the platform, we really just want to gauge the analytics. And this is kind of what I was getting at. We want to gauge the analytics by what's relevant in the moment, because you haven't built your account to the point where people are clicking to your site. You probably haven't built up the skill set you need to write captions that people want to click on. Like, I think that was mistake number 2. You probably haven't built up the skill set that you need to find the keywords that people are actually searching for, which was mistake number 1. So then really just drilling down into what metrics are the most important for me to determine if this is a long-term strategy that's going to work for the business. Well, are people actually engaging with your content? Because if they are, that's giving me indication that they're interested in the content. But now we have to go a level deeper. How do we now get them to save? How do we now get them to visit the site? Because we can't get them to the site immediately. We really have to go through every level. You don't climb on a roof by immediately getting on the roof. You don't go from the ground to the roof. You have to take the ladder, and every step up matters. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yep. It comes out to, or it shows up when people are, well, I'm not getting traffic to my website from Pinterest. But then if you don't go back and look at numbers like the impressions, which is going to, and views, which are going to indicate whether or not Pinterest is even serving your pins to people in their feeds, or you're not looking at that save number, which is going to really increase that distribution, then you might think that people are seeing your pins but not clicking on them, when in reality, what's going on is they're not even seeing them. And that could be super normal in the beginning of, your Pinterest journey. So kind of like it, knowing all 4 of those metrics and keeping an eye on all of them is probably really, and I'm talking about after the 6-month mark, guys. That's the way really to be solving for the right problems, I think, too. And unfortunately, a lot of other creators on this platform, and I've talked about this before and on other platforms, will only sell you views. Well, I get 10 million monthly views with this Pinterest strategy. Who the hell cares? Because a view is counted as your pin was placed in their feed, whether they saw your pin or not. We've all been on Pinterest, I think, at this point. All of us in this chat, all of us watching, you and I work on this platform. Just because you just saw 40 pins on my screen when I was sharing, because your pin was placed on their screen does not mean they saw it. So at the end of the day, we are not really judging success on Pinterest by impressions only, because we cannot go to the bank and say, dearest Jana bank teller, can you please take these impressions for my mortgage? Right. Yeah. Impressions don't pay the bills. And they're basically a vanity metric. And that comes back to, what we talked about, what you mentioned earlier, was that different business models, depending on what your goals are on Pinterest, should also be looking at different numbers. Because, there aren't that many scenarios where this could be true, but there are some scenarios where that number might be more meaningful. To most of my clients who are coaches and they just want to use Pinterest to get clients, at the end of the day, they might be tricked into thinking that like, oh, I got all these views. That's great. I'm doing well. But that's not, again, you can't pay your mortgage with views. Whereas someone who is using Pinterest as a content creator and influencer, they might be making money from brands, and then the views could be a little bit more important. Although these days brands are really looking for the engagement metrics more than they are the distribution metrics anyway. But the point is that different numbers are important for different people depending on their goals on Pinterest. And we did a Clubhouse room a while back, and maybe we'll do this again at some point, where we talked about 8 ways to make money with Pinterest. And I think it's eye-opening for people to remember that there's all these different ways to do it. And it's not only about possibility, it's also about like, don't try to do all 8 of them, because like, you're not going to be able to like figure out where you're going and what your goals are, or what numbers to look at would be another way to think about that if you're trying to monetize in all these different ways. So anyway, tangent, but one way to make money on Pinterest is not by becoming a Pinterest VA. Oh yeah, that wasn't one of our 8. I hate when people say that. Make money on Pinterest, become a Pinterest VA. It's like, get that off your list. That is not a way to make money on Pinterest. That's like it's like almost, maybe it's honorary mention, but that's not, that's not what we were talking about. Yeah. I like to rant. We're calling certain people out here. Occasionally. Okay, Nikki says, do you have other people's trending pins on your boards and are they affecting your pins doing well? I don't believe that they're affecting your pins. If you have other pins, so let's say, for example, Jana has a pin that's doing really well and I pin it to one of my boards. My metric, so let's say her pin has 2,000 views on it or impressions. That's not going to count towards mine because it's going to be a copy of hers that's starting over. So I make a copy of hers by saving it to my board and mine gets 500 impressions. That's going to count in the overall number on the front of your profile, but it's not hurting your pins by having them on your boards.
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense, Nikki, and welcome to our first ever YouTube Live. Nikki was one of our OG Clubhouse members.
Yeah.
So that's all of our mistakes. Shall we recap them really quick?
Or we could just talk about 10 more. No, I'm just kidding. Save that for another day. Yeah, let's recap them. So number one was not doing keyword research. So that's just like kind of guessing what keywords to use, or just totally forgetting to even try to use keywords because you don't remember that it's a search engine. Number two was not thinking about like shifting into your ideal like Pinterest pinner or client or however you want to think of that person, not shifting into their shoes and thinking, why would they click on this pin? And then considering that when you're thinking about what text overlay to use. That one was a little bit, we talked about a lot of different things, but essentially it's like not incorporating that whole like what's in it for me mentality, which we have to in all of our marketing everywhere. Otherwise, womp womp. People only pay attention to what they think is relevant to them. Number three was posting things that are time sensitive without having a plan for maybe making sure that that link is going to continue to be relevant for people. And that usually happens when people don't really understand how Pinterest distributes and when they distribute, and the Pinterest is evergreen. They're thinking, oh, I'll use Pinterest like I use Instagram to get a bunch of people to sign up for my webinar that's happening next week live. Yeah. And then right. And then number four was looking at your analytics like before the 6 month mark. That's what I say. I say 6 months. Heather sometimes says 90 days, depending on how often you're pinning. And I think that that's sort of a variation of like being too concerned about like watching the pot boil, basically. Mm-hmm. So yeah, those are the 4 mistakes that we covered essentially in a nutshell.
So next week we are talking about what? Let me just pull up our doc. We are talking about same place, same time, 10/12 at 10 a.m. Pacific time or
1 p.m. Eastern time.
1 p.m. Eastern time. We are going to be talking about content repurposing examples and how to make your content go further. So while this is mainly a Pinterest marketing channel, I also talk about content marketing and just marketing best practices in general on this channel as well. And Jana does that as well. So we are not just Pinterest experts. We also are content marketing experts, and we want to bring you some tips and tricks to make your content better. So when you do put it on Pinterest, it does better. So next week at 1 Eastern time, Thursday, 10/12, 1 Eastern time, content repurposing examples and how to make your content go further. Jana has a ChatGPT prompt, which you guys know I'm all about here on this channel. I've been sharing lots of those recently that she's going to share with you guys. And I actually have it already, and I'm going to be employing that probably tomorrow to try it out before, because you guys know I like to try things. So please come and join us, same place, same time next week. You can actually get notified on the YouTube channel right now if you go to the videos page on my channel and click the notify me button on the live video. I'm just gonna really quickly, because I like to show you examples, share my screen again, because I have that power. I have all the power.
Isn't that fun on a live?
So youtube.com / at Heather Farris, go to the live tab.
Streams.
And then right here, click notify me.
Oh, so you can just kind of scroll through those and hit notify, or you can pick and choose. Like if there's some topics you want to be here for, if there's some that you're like, not so much for me. Okay.
Exactly.
Yep. Love it.
Now in the description of this YouTube video, when this thing is all done, there are some resources that Jana has so graciously placed there for us. Jana, tell us where people can find you on the internet.
Yeah. Okay. So my email list is where all of my like VIP content goes. So you can sign up for my emails at janaomedia.com/emails. And that's like all my exclusive stuff that I send out only to my list. So that's a good place to find me. And I also have a free Pinterest marketing masterclass that people can take. So if you go to janaomedia.com/free class, you can watch my free, super high value Pinterest marketing masterclass. It's really geared towards coaches and service providers and online experts. So if that's you, especially if you're a health or self-improvement coach of any kind, business coach, relationship coach, you'll find that that's going to be a really helpful place for you to learn Pinterest 101 basics. So those are two places people can go.
I love that.
Yeah. How about you? What are we putting in the links for you?
Just the usual. It's the strategy guide. If you're new to Pinterest, if you are looking for more support and help from me, the membership is also there. So go
Your
check out the
membership,
description.
people can join your membership like immediately, jump in, start learning right away. It's like so accessible for people, which I love, like accessible price point wise. And you can jump in and start using the trainings that you need right now, depending on where you are in your Pinterest journey and your marketing journey.
Yeah. And you get access to the community, which is you only get when you join the membership. So we have a private Facebook group. We have weekly coaching calls. We're doing monthly deep dives right now. So we're learning all about lead magnets in the month of October. So there's lots going on in there, and there's going to be lots going on this YouTube live journey that we are now embarking on. We have 13 of these planned. Today was number 1. So we have 12 more planned. I hope that you guys will give this video a like, because it does help the algorithm to serve it to more people. Likes matter more to me on the video, and comments, and share it with your friends if you thought it was valuable. And then come and join us next week on content repurposing examples. Anything else before we go, Jana?
I don't think so. I can't wait for next week. This is so fun. Let's do it again soon.
We'll see you there. Bye.
Okay. Bye, guys.